Please note that this article was written by Fextralife, and I am simply narrating it for her. MMORPGs are a particular sort of game prone to love, hate, greatness, and mediocrity alike. I'm not an MMO fan per se, but I religiously played Lotro for years on end, had numerous server firsts on the most challenging raids in the game, and dabbled in Rift for a year or so. A rather peculiar aspect of MMOs is that they are built with 10-year cycles in mind. This often creates vision and delivery issues between the original developer team, the inevitable handover team, the original marketing and players, the new players, and at last the casuals that end up being pandered to in a myriad of pay-to-win microtransactions once the game goes free to play. Knowing the above is inevitable, you must really enjoy a game's concept and/or mechanics before deciding to invest your time into one of these titles. Of course, some serial MMOers make the mistake of assuming the game won't change and end up disillusioned and quitting loudly on the game's forums a few months or even years after launch. This article is about why I, in full knowledge of all of the above, am sticking around ESO and loving every minute. Join in for a quick, albeit likely unpopular, rundown of how ZeniMax has actually improved the game over time. I got ESO because I could not resist the music, the setting, the outstanding graphics, the opportunity to immerse myself in the Elder Scrolls world with a friend. Gimme. I knew full well this wasn't a classic MMO with raids, etc. It was clear that this was a solo game with friends, and that is exactly what it delivered to me. I had the good fortune of choosing the best faction of all, Aldmeri Dominion, because it has the best character in the history of Elder Scrolls, Razumdar. My Khajiit partner in crime guided me through many factions' quests while I slowly discovered the world. I ran into some issues like having to be in the same faction as your friend, or getting instanced out if your friend had completed a quest because the landscape adapts to your individual progress. However, I made it through all the zones and experienced the 300 plus completely voiced quests to the fullest. I even ran into some people doing ERP to the tune of the lusty Argonian maid. Good times. Just about the time when people were getting loud about there not being great grouping, ZeniMax added Lower Craglorn. This free new zone focused on group questing and introduced trials, the ESO equivalent of raids. This began to define what endgame would look like, and to me, it looked great. A challenging but not impossible or time-consuming raid that dropped good loot and can be done with a pug. Sign me up. This push to give endgame more body continued later in June, adding the veteran version of Crypt of Hearts as a taste for what was yet to come. Moving towards what would become Fashion Scrolls Online, ESO added an auction house equivalent, Guild Traders. This made it so people had to join specific guilds to trade their equipment and materials. This also created a need to group, recruit, and collaborate, and came accompanied by guild management tool improvements so that players could keep up with what was happening and wear their guild colors as a tabard to show their affiliation. But the real game changer here for me was the armor dies. Up to now, achievements had little purpose save giving you a cool title now and then, but with this update, they changed it so your armor customization could be improved by unlocking them. This appealed to the completionist and fashionista in me to go around hunting for hard-to-get achievements to unlock specific colors I wanted to try. Patch 1.33 made an enormous change to how ESO handled itemization by adding 2 and 4-piece bonuses on all traditional sets versus the previous approach of only 3 and 5. In my opinion, looking back on all the changes made in the past 3 years, this one was likely the most significant because it radically transformed how sets were viewed and how everyone approached them. Figuring out how to have the best combination of bonuses became the fuel for build theory crafting, and to this day, it is by its sets that ESO lives and dies. At this point, ESO had a healthy amount of endgame players bored of running the same instances over and over. Enter Upper Craglorn with its new trial Sanctum Ophidia and the Dragonstar Arena, ready to keep us busy figuring out how these new sets and pieces would match our builds and contending for the best rewards from the arena. With the addition of this content also came the inclusion of master weapons, which further redefined endgame gear. Now, not only did you have functioning sets, but you had to factor in the unique qualities of these powerful items. Another significant game changer, the addition of undaunted enclaves and daily pledges, pushed the game in the right direction toward becoming more of an MMO. It had been 9 months since launch, and we had already done all the quests from our faction and gone on to do the ones of the other two factions on the same character. We had explored Craglorn and were hanging out wondering what was next. Pledges made us all remember previous zones and gave us a reason to go redo a dungeon, learn all of its ins and outs, and look forward to new loot from doing them every day. Crafters got a similar treat with daily quests called Writs that rewarded the production of something rather than the destruction of materials. Furthermore, ZeniMax introduced surveys, which became a great reason to visit old zones again. Veteran City of Ash was also added in this update, and it remains one of the more difficult dungeons in ESO to this day. It had been 5 months since the last major update, but a year after launch, ZeniMax unleashed truly amazing changes that reinvented the game once more. Whilst it is tempting to lead with Justice and Champion, the real game changer here was the removal of stat soft caps, previously called overcharge. Before this update, if you focused too much into one stat, you would overcharge it, making further investment pointless, forcing you to diversify your stats. No longer. Now players could mold builds to their specific desires, and having full sets of light or medium armor would yield significantly different results. To date, this remains one of the most significant changes to the entire game. Not to be outdone, the champion system was introduced, bringing a way for level-capped players to still level up, which is a progression system akin to Rift's Planar Attunement or Diablo's Paragon Points. This new take on the constellation mechanic of Elder Scrolls made for a fantastic change that gave longtime players a reason to continue playing and earning experience, as they could feel their character getting better with each point invested and perk unlocked. I found myself loving this particular aspect, and together with the removal of soft caps, it allowed me to rebuild my character in a completely new and fun way. As a cherry on top, the long-awaited justice system added the option to pickpocket, trade contraband goods, and be chased around by guards. A new skill line associated with this would also be added, and cities came to life as you saw fellow players running for their miserable criminal lives with a tally of town guards breathing fire on their sorry behinds. The word that sums up this update is fun. On March 17, 2015, a year after launch, the game changed from its initial buy and pay subscription to play to buy and play for free subscription optional. Those of us who had been with the game since day one, subbed the whole year, got an awesome Sench Tiger mount, and hordes of returning and new players joined in the fray for the fate of Tamriel. This change was a successful one for the game's economy, both in-game and for ZeniMax's pockets, which is a double win for me, as I want the game to do well since I like it so much. Sets were changed to scale to your highest stat, which is taken for granted nowadays, but did really bring the champion system and overcharge removal into full effect. This is the game's second defining moment for me. I have never enjoyed PC gaming much, and the option to move the character to my PS4 and play from my couch was one I had been waiting for since the game was announced. I made the swap without hesitation, and so did another 3.2 million players. Playing from my couch and on my TV has truly made ESO accessible to me, and I would absolutely love to see more quality MMOs delivered to console. The arrival of One Tamriel combined with the console launch shortly thereafter was so significant that it drastically altered the course of the game's future, all but guaranteeing that it would succeed for years to come. The first expansion for ESO added new PvP and PvE content, delivering in the form of challenging dungeons and interesting multiplayer variances to the tried and true Alliance War. After doing the same dungeons for more than a year, I was ready to be challenged with new content, and the new sets were excellent rewards for my effort. These dungeons remained the most difficult in the game until the release of Shadows of the Hist many months later. My crafter also got a beautiful new motif to learn, and a necessary change to the way these work was made, dividing them into several chapters rather than one book. This was a controversial change, as many people saw it as a way to promote the easy buy from the Crown Store and take away from the actual gameplay, but for me, this meant the multiplication of in-game goals. Up to now, I was looking for one item, and once I had it, I had the style and I was done in my quest to obtain it. Now, I have to collect 13 different chapters of the book to complete a collection and learn the style, which improves the longevity of the hunt. This would prove to be a very successful change for ZeniMax, and it opened the floodgates so that instead of having 3 or 4 special craftable styles, we have 50 plus as of 2017. Free for subscribers, this large-sized new zone brought about many fun activities for my character. I could do the quests and collect items, grab sky shards, defeat bosses, do the new delves, and I could enjoy collecting the new styles, all while enjoying an increase to my VR and my champion ranks. Crafting writs began giving me fragments to collect and transform into glass motifs, and this zone was populated with special endgame crafting materials that were needed to craft endgame gear, as well as new crafting stations that make some of the best sets in the game. This was an overload of content for me, and I could not have been happier about it. The new sets and materials boosted the game's economy and motivated old and new players to push the limit and attempt the Maelstrom Arena, a solo-friendly trial that yields similar rewards to the now 1-year-old Dragonstar Arena, including Maelstrom weapons. These weapons remain some of the best in the game to date. Moreover, this DLC introduced another subtle change that would ultimately shape the entire game later on: battle leveling. In order to sell the DLC to new players and still keep it interesting for veterans, ZeniMax had to figure out how to fit us all into the same challenging area. This was done by automatically scaling lower players up, as it's done in the PvP zones. Thanks to the game's seamless instancing of materials, this did not affect crafting for other players, and created the first integrated PvE zone in the game, where new and veteran players could quest side by side without one getting carried or the other one getting nothing from their efforts. It also added some improvements to the Looking for Group tool that allowed players to challenge dungeons with friends or randoms from different alliances. All in all, Orsinium still remains the best overall DLC ever added to ESO since its creation. Also for free subscribers, this medium-sized DLC added a lot of fun little things for players to do. Following in Orsinium's footsteps, new and low-level players would be battle-leveled so they could enjoy the content, making this zone a bustling hub in no time. Besides adding a new trial, as well as world bosses and quests, the Thieves Guild's skill line improved the already available Legerdemain system for player misbehavior. Players could now be caught trespassing and be penalized with a bounty, but may also obtain rewards called edicts that are used to falsify a pardon for a certain amount of money. The addition of these checks and balances, as well as criminal quests, made for a fun spice-up of the justice system, with Abba's Watch becoming a den of unlawful players constantly running for their lives within the city. And often ignored, but one of my favorite retrospective inclusions, was the addition of a new category of collection: assistants. These are NPCs that can be summoned anywhere you're at that perform a service that would otherwise cause you to travel. The first one is a smuggler, who conveniently fences anything you've stolen on the spot, with the mitigating factor that she takes 30% of your earnings. A smaller DLC than the previous ones, but still introducing a zone and free for subscribers, the Dark Brotherhood brought about a fantastic change and further upgrades to the justice system. The Dark Brotherhood quest line may not have been the best one, but its effects on the overall world changed the way towns worked forever. Players could now not only pickpocket NPCs, but could also murder them and gain enormous bounties if caught. Assassination quests and targets populated all of Tamriel, and the inexperienced hitman of Tamriel could find himself out of pocket or life fairly quickly. Some improvements made to PvP item vendors, as well as the Imperial City and its mechanics, meant some more PvP action to be had there, but again the underlooked change was the addition of player personalities. This collectible was introduced with the Assassin personality, which is awarded for completion of the full quest of the zone. It alters the regular animations of your character, from walk and sprint to idle, boast, or other emotes, providing some fun to waiting around and allowing for further customization of your virtual avatar. Most personalities must be bought in the store, but I'm hopeful ZeniMax will reward us with some more as content is released. This patch had a significant change in the road to where the game is now: the removal of VR ranks. Players would now simply level to 50 and then automatically scale to their champion points accumulated on any character over 50. The conversion was automatic and simplified the game and its progression without penalizing players who had been around all along. In short, it made it easier for players to create and play multiple characters, increasing the overall activity of the game greatly. If that wasn't enough, ZeniMax also introduced poison crafting to alchemy, allowing players to use their materials in a whole new way and providing an alternative to weapon enchantments that soon proved to be favored by most PvP players, as poisons could have deadly effects on unaware enemies. For other crafters, new styles to hunt were added, including some for the Thieves Guild. And what for me has been the single largest change to the game: the craft bag. Unfairly available only to ESO Plus subscribers, this amazing invention puts all of your collected crafted materials into a bottomless box, freeing up your 220 inventory slots and bank spaces for sets, PvP oils and cold fires, collectibles, treasure maps, soul and stuff, research items, and whatever else fellow hoarders need. I cannot stress enough how much this changed the game for me. I went from not picking up resources because of space to gathering everything, using everything, and finally fully maxing out all crafting professions. I could quest large zones without having to stop every 30 minutes to discard materials and pick up anything I wanted in a dungeon without worry. All praise the craft bag. Best $15 a month I ever spent. The smallest of the DLCs, Shadows of the Hist, is also free to ESO Plus subscribers, but it only added 2 new, really hard dungeons. The gear within them is quite good, and they reward character skins and motifs, so this was a welcome endgame challenge for smaller groups who didn't want to do trials. The real jewels of this update were, however, the addition of several new sets, and for me in particular, the addition of console text chat. This was something I had wanted on consoles all along, and ZeniMax had been uncertain about, but eventually the player base demonstrated the need, and its implementation has been a lifesaver. It really changed the way we PvP by allowing soloers, and has made trading items easier by allowing us to share and barter in zone chat. On top of that, it gave a much needed boost to the game's economy by allowing players to link what they have for sale in the chat window. This massive update redesigned the entire way the whole game is approached, finally recreating a feeling of complete open world for new players. From here on, all players are automatically battle leveled to champion level 160 by stat buffing, and their incrementally gained levels take them in a steady gear progression towards their level 50 mark, and on champion system progression until champion 600. This update revitalized the game in ways few could have predicted, as it also introduced a myriad of new sets and added them as rewards for completing Dark Anchors, quests, and world bosses, all whilst allowing all players to access all alliances without restrictions of level, origin, or quest progression. It created a month-long frenzy of world boss farming and a chaotic rush for guild vendors so that players could match their new sets to the best weapon ultimates introduced. Undaunted pledges came alive with activity thanks to smart revamps and simplifications to the reward system, and towns became hotspots for the newly introduced dueling feature. The game was a non-stop congestion as we all enjoyed the sudden influx of new and old players who wanted to try out the new system, and reinvigorated longtime players who now had more reasons to do the many similar daily tasks. I personally spent time farming Deshawn and Stonefalls until I could deck out 2 characters in my desired sets, and it was a blast thanks to the flood of players running about. As a little quality of life improvement, players could now pay to change their character's race, name, and appearance, providing those who had invested a lot of time into their character with a way to refine their initial choices from so long ago. This month also marked the introduction of seasonal festivals to the game, following the path laid out by many other MMOs. Following a unique Elder Scrolls style, the quests for these were actually enjoyable and the rewards thematic. Players loved to transform into skeletons to gain more XP and obtain loot boxes from the world bosses, again giving unprecedented livelihood to usually quiet zones. More events would follow, such as New Year and Springtime festivals, all with a unique flair to match the occasion and introducing consumables and other festivity collections for the players. This had been a day one request for many players, and it materialized almost 3 years after release. The Homestead patch added a new and completely optional aspect to the game, and is easy to ignore by anyone who is not interested, except there's a lot of gold to be made from those who are. Whether you want a house or not, the process of getting unique and special items through the newly introduced Master Writs is a slow one, so all players can benefit from the boost to the economy from the trading and bartering of crafting recipes, materials, and of course, the writs. For me, this added a whole new collection of recipes to learn and unlock, as well as new objectives and incentives to complete daily writs, as well as uncommon achievements that grant special rewards, such as monster busts which can be displayed in your house. For large guilds, glamorous halls with trophies of guild achievements, as well as crafting stations, assistants, and mounts can become a symbol of power and prosperity, bringing players within those guilds closer together as they rally to complete collections and sets to display. And here we are. I'm now playing daily to collect housing and other crafting items whilst doing some PvP and waiting to set out on the Morrowind chapter. It won't be included on my ESO Plus, but I hear my bank space will be doubled, which can only be welcome at this point, as I already admitted I'm a hoarder. I've already played it on the PC closed beta, so I'm very much looking forward to this launching officially on PlayStation 4. We'll have an article with details on Morrowind changes and impacts sooner to the release date. So, having gone through 3 years of ESO history in as few paragraphs as possible, I look back and what I see is a company that did give me what I needed in incremental upgrades. Many players fear that the monetization system of the Crown Store will push the game towards microtransaction hell as it inches closer and closer to free-to-play. So far, I've been very satisfied, and in the 3 years I have played, I have bought a grand total of one thing from the Crown Store: a vendor assistant during the 1 Tamriel set Gold Rush. To me, this means that players don't necessarily need to use the store or spend money to get value out of the game, and if you're willing to put in the time or effort, you can obtain the same rewards with gameplay or simply by farming gold and purchasing them from other players. During all this time, many changes have been done to the main class I play, and many times for the worse, but I still enjoyed the game for its many opportunities. I quested and explored until there was not one undiscovered location in all of Tamriel. When PvE got boring, I went into Cyrodiil and helped win campaigns and got myself delicious gold jewelry gear. When PvP got bad because of a class nerf I didn't like, I immersed myself in the DLCs, completed all the veteran dungeons and pledges, found every lore book. When I got tired of walking aimlessly, I returned to Cyrodiil to find the new town mechanics had changed spawns and all for the better. When that became stale, I went back to anchors and dungeons and farmed gear or traded with others to fill my gold coffers to purchase a house. All of this, and I still have motifs to finish, trials to master, and fish to catch. I don't see myself stopping anytime soon. So Morrowind is just around the corner, and given the care ZeniMax has taken of the game, and how they have kept me around for this long simply by slowly adding activities and making sure I always have something to do, I am genuinely excited and hoping they keep this up and the store out of the way for another 3 more years. If you haven't given ESO a try yet, I strongly recommend you do. The game has never been better than it is now, and it shows very few signs of slowing down.